The most successful people like recognition, and sometimes people work harder for recognition than they will for anything else. Some people are incorruptible, you know, no matter how, you can't over-flatter them because they know what their capacity is. If you go beyond that, they begin to be suspicious of you. Most people, however, I believe are corruptible when it comes to this business of flattery. You can over-flatter them and they commence to believe it. And that's bad for them and for you too. There was a book written that was widely distributed all over this country, and the central theme in that book was, if you want to get along in the world, flatter people. Well, flattery is as old as the world. It's one of the most deadly and one of the oldest weapons, and one of the most dangerous. Now, I like approbation. I like those 5 people that happened to know me and complimented me. I enjoyed it. But if they'd gone, if one of them had followed me out and said, well, Mr. Hill, I appreciate all that you've done for me and all that sort of thing, but by the way, would you mind if I came around the house tonight? I'd like to talk to you about a business proposition. You see, right away I'd have said, well, now he's flattered me in order that he may get some of my time and he may get some benefits from me. So too much flattery, too much commendation is not so good either. Well, anyhow, a positive mental attitude at all times, 29, but I wanted to call your attention to number 28, the habit of applying the golden rule principle in all human relationships. I'm not going to ask you to vote on that one. I'm only going to call your attention to the fact that one of the finest things you can do for yourself is to put yourself in the other fellow's position when you go to make any decision or engage in any transaction involving the other fellow. Just put yourself in the other fellow's position before you make a final decision. And if you do that, the chances are that you'll always do the fair thing by the other man. Number 30, the habit of assuming full responsibility for any task that you've undertaken. Not coming back with an alibi. Did you know the one thing at which the majority of people are the most adept in doing? Alibis. My, oh my, oh my. Alibis. Creating a reason why they didn't succeed or didn't get the job done or didn't do the thing. If the majority of people who create alibis would put half as much time into doing the thing right or trying to do it right that they put into explaining why they didn't do it, you know, they'd get a lot farther in life and be much better off. And generally speaking, the man who is the most clever at creating an alibi is the most inefficient man in the whole works. They make a profession of spinning alibis. They think them up in advance so that if they are called on the carpet or get caught over the barrel, they have an answer. There's only one thing that counts, and that's success. Results are what count. Results. I once wrote an epigram covering this subject that I thought was very effective. Success requires no explanations. Failure permits no alibis. In other words, if it's a success, you don't need any explanations. And if it's a failure, all the alibis and the explanations in the world won't do any good. It's still a failure, isn't it? Yeah. And number 31, the habit of keeping the mind occupied with that which one desires and not with that which one does not want. You know, the vast majority of instances in which people engage in personal initiative is in connection with the things they don't want. Had you ever thought of that? Now there is one place where most people don't have to be taught to take the personal initiative. They really work at it. Work at thinking about all the things they don't want, and that's precisely what they get out of life. The things that they think about. Things that they attune their minds to. Now there's a place where that word transmute can come into play. Instead of thinking about the things you don't want, the things you fear, the things you distrust, the things you dislike, think about all the things you like, all the things you want, and all the things you're going to become determined to get.
Now, we begin a discussion of one of the most important of all the principles of success. Number 7, a positive mental attitude. This is the formula with which the entire philosophy can be best assimilated and put into practical use. You cannot get the most out of the other 16 principles without understanding and applying what you're about to hear. Take this lecture to heart and truly make this principle a part of you. If you don't have your pencil and notebook handy, we suggest you get it now before proceeding any further. Dr. Hill will soon be giving you a number of lists of elements that go into developing and using a positive mental attitude. You'll want to have them all written down to refer to. To briefly outline one of those key components, in this lecture you will hear Dr. Hill speak about the 7 basic fears. For reference, they are the fear of poverty, the fear of criticism, the fear of ill health, the fear of the loss of love, the fear of old age, the fear of the loss of liberty, and the fear of death. Let us emphasize a crucial point to buttress Dr. Hill's lecture. That is, there are 2 things which nature discourages and severely penalizes. One is a vacuum, or emptiness. The other is a lack of activity, or idleness. Consider the price of idleness. If you tied one of your arms to your side, immobilizing it for a period of time, it would atrophy, wither, and ultimately become useless. Consider the price of emptiness. If you do not take control of your power of thought, if you leave your mind vacuous and open to outside influences, it will fill up with negative thoughts, be tossed and torn by the stray winds of circumstance and chance. It will be fertile ground for the seeds of failure. It is a great and simple truth that success attracts more success, while failure attracts more failure. With a negative mental attitude, you can believe in fear and frustration, and your mind will attract you to them. But with a positive mental attitude, you can put your mind to work believing that you have the right to achieve the riches you desire, and your belief will infallibly guide you toward them. And now it's time once again to join Dr. Napoleon Hill.
I must tell you something that happened last Saturday. I went down to the travel agency to get my ticket changed so I could come back on Monday instead of Sunday. When I walked in, the manager of the travel agency grabbed my hand when he saw who I was and introduced himself and started in to sell me Think and Grow Rich. In a little while he still had hold of my hand talking to me, a man came in, a friend of his, who was connected with one of the airlines, and he heard the name Napoleon Hill, and he grabbed the other hand and started to sell me Think and Grow Rich. And he said, you may be interested in knowing that before I went with the airline, I had a sales organization with approximately 100 people, and I required every salesman to have all of your books. That was a must. Well, I felt pretty good. As I started out, there were 2 very nice-looking young ladies standing on the sidewalk giving out election literature. And as I passed by, one of them said, say, aren't you Napoleon Hill? I turned around and bowed. I said, yes, I am. Who are you? She said, well, I was at a woman's club about 2 years ago when you delivered an address, and this is my cousin here. Both of our husbands are very successful now due to the fact they have read your books. I went on over to my car, and a policeman was making out a ticket. You see, all this talk. This is the payoff. I put a penny in there, thinking that would 12 minutes would be all I would be in there. But all of this nice conversation I was getting, I stopped to bathe my vanity in it. And when I got there, this policeman was making out the ticket. He had it about halfway made out. And I walked up to, of course, he didn't know who the car was. I walked up to him. I said, now, you wouldn't do that to Napoleon Hill, would you? He said, who? I said, Napoleon Hill. He said, no, I wouldn't do that to Napoleon Hill, but I certainly would do it to you. Well, I introduced myself. I took out my credit card and handed it to him and my driver's license, and he said, well, I'll be a monkey's uncle. He took the tab and tore it up, and he said, we just forget about that. And he said, you may be interested in knowing that I'm on the Glendale police force as a result of reading your book, Think and Grow Rich.